Hey everyone, my name is Attila, and in today's videos we're going to take a first look at TipTop Audio's two brand new effect modules, the MODFX and the FSU. So let's dive in. So here we are, meet the MODFX and FXU. MODFX is designed to turn bland and boring mono sounds into beautiful, lush, wide stereo soundscapes. And the FSU is more on the experimental side with its sound on sound and glitch engines, while also giving you a bank of 8 superb sounding analog type distortions. So what are these effect units? Well, in my opinion, these are the effects that everyone should technically use in sound design, but none of us really do, because we tend to ignore them and just favor effects that are pretty much guaranteed to make everything sound big and amazing, such as big reverbs and stereo delays. But with the addition of unique effects like these over here, you're pretty much guaranteed to elevate your sound just a bit beyond the rest of the crowd. And of course, nothing should stop you from using these effects in conjunction with those guaranteed to sound good sort of reverbs and delays. So when I'm demoing these effects, I'm really going to want you to pay attention to the ear candy and those subtle differences that they give to the source sounds, and don't always expect a massive transformation like you would get with, let's say, a 15-second shimmer reverb. I mean, you can take a car horn or you can fart into a microphone and put that through one of those reverbs and it will make it sound good, right? These two new effect modules are built upon the concept of the massively successful trio of ZFX modules from TipTop Audio, the Z-Verb, the Echoes, and the Z5000. They follow the same layout design, so if you're already familiar with those three effect units, then you will certainly understand these two very quickly. For those of you though who haven't had the pleasure to work with those original three ZFX modules, let's have a quicker look at the front plate and the knobs and some of the functions. So the hardware itself is encased in a 8 HP module. They all have 3 illuminated buttons for bank selection, 8 programs per bank for a total of 3 banks, 3 CV inputs for all DSP parameters, and you can also modulate the fidelity control, which is basically the internal clock of the effect units. And that makes for some pretty crazy effects, which we'll get to. So first we're going to be looking at the MODFX, so let's have a quick look at the front plate over here. The rate knob controls the speed of the modulation LFOs. The filter controls the cutoff frequency of a filter or the amount of the feedback, and the depth controls how much the modulation sweeps through the range. Alright, so now let's see some of these modules in action, and I'm going to demo a few of the programs from each bank. And I really encourage you to listen to these in a good set of headphones or a good set of monitor speakers. But you're also welcome to look at the spectrogram and the sound-filled monitor, as they will give you important visual feedback of what the current effect is doing to the sound in the stereo field as well as in the frequency spectrum. So let's start with the MODFX Chorus Bank. Chorus is an essential effect for electronic music, and many classic synths such as Solinas or Junos use chorus as part of their essential sound. It's often pretty subtle, but it makes a huge difference, turning mono sources into wide stereo sounds with more depth. So the rate controls the speed of the LFO and the depth controls the modulation depth. And the filter knob controls the speed of the secondary LFO. And this is probably a good part for me to mention about the mono source input on these effect units, to make sure you understand why and for what use these modules were designed for. So again, these modules are intended to turn sounds into better version of themselves by providing you with a myriad of creative effects that you can use on any source material, whether that be a simple one-note pad or a complex bass lines, sounds coming from another effect unit such as a reverb or delay. A considerable selection of the effect algorithms sound best with the drive-at knob all the way to the wet position, and the modules are also a brilliant option to be used in a send-return configuration where you still want to keep some of the original signal but with some added ear candy or width on it. In both scenarios, stereo inputs would be completely useless. And on a more personal note, I've been working with Eurorack for over 5 years now, and I cannot remember a scenario where I absolutely had to have an effects unit with stereo inputs on it. As a matter of fact, a mono input just makes things a lot easier as far as I'm concerned. And of course, if you want a more elaborate effect module with stereo inputs, I suggest you look into the ZDSP-VC, which is a superb effect module with stereo or dual mono inputs and voltage control over many of its functions. The MODFX and FSU are intended to make your sounds more interesting, where turning mono signals into stereo signal is a key, but more in a subtle way and certainly at a lot lower price point. That said though, there are still more than enough opportunities here for modulation via the CV inputs for all the white knobs. So let's modulate the depth parameter on the dual vibrato algorithm with a very slow LFO. And I'm going to slowly dial that in. Some of the programs are a lot more esoteric and they are derived from rare processors that can make wilder effects, such as the diffuse chorus with independent chorus lines for left and right channels made from all-pass delays. Or the random 4-voice chorus where 4 independent chorus lines split between left and right channels. So here the filter knob adjusts the amount of signal fed back into the delays, and you can achieve some pretty crazy sounds with that. Let's turn down fidelity. Let's modulate the fidelity parameter. And if we turn the fidelity way down, then we're gonna get some nice glitchy, sort of like bit reduction effects. So let's look into the FLANGER Bank. Flangers are modulations based on short delay times, and they give movement to more static sounds. And here is our dry sound. And now let's try some of the CarPlus and Resonator algorithms, which are generally pretty useful to create bass, chord, or harmony from non-pitch sources such as drum loops. last but not least, let's have a look at the filter bank. These are filter-based effects, but not your typical low or high pass type that are usually found in a modular system. They include a couple of classic analog all-pass filter style phasers. And let's try the same on some drum sounds. They sound pretty good with some higher rates. Kind of to give you that bubbly, coming from underwater type of sound. Let's try it on a sequence. Turn up the rate. Turn it way down with high depth. Alright, so that was the MODFX, and in the next video we're going to look at the FSU. So I'll see you there.